Hello, people. My name is Warwick White. I'm back again, giving my normal, annoyingly altruistic speeches. I hope you excuse the Rudolph red-nosed reindeer today. Been blowing my nose a lot. Got a really bad case of the sniffles today. Dust allergy. But anyway, today I'm talking about criminal nature, and this speech is really about making people aware of how criminals think and the nature, kind of stuff they get up to, about how people kind of get caught up in criminal rings and that kind of stuff. And at the end, there is going to be a teeny tiny political speech about socialism, which it ties into the discussion only a tiny bit. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about what I see as the pyramid of fear with criminal nature. Now, I'm not really too fond of people with a criminal nature, but at the same time, I'm not very judgmental because I understand that people aren't born criminals. There's normally somehow they get into it. Sometimes they get into it of their own free will, and they're just nasty people. Remember my age-old saying, person's beliefs and a person's nature go hand in hand. But basically, I'm going to start out by speaking about how people tend to get involved in criminal rings. With the pyramid of fear, I find it's the criminal rings, or the criminal nature it's kind of built on what I'd see as a pyramid of fear. And at the bottom of the pyramid, you've kind of got the entry point and how people actually slowly get involved in criminal rings and how they get trapped in them, how they find it hard to get out. Normally starts when someone's very young, normally so young that they're a bit naive to really know what they're getting involved in. You've heard that saying, get them while they're young. That actually applies to good people as well as bad people. Then we'll start out with a simple philosophy. Most people in the world are involved in this don't narc philosophy. For those of you who are watching this English, narcs in English, in English Cockney, they're referred to as grasses, or the formal name is an informer. So for this term of this video, we'll call them narcs, which actually came from, funny enough, a lot of people don't know where the history of the word narc came from. Is actually it's actually short for narcotics police officer, believe it or not, because they infiltrate the drug gangs. It's where the term narc came from. Just a little history lesson where the word narc comes from. But anyway, the don't narc philosophy. Most people that even don't have a criminal nature tend to be indoctrinated with this you don't narc philosophy. No matter what, you don't narc. If you see a child being drug muled, you don't narc. If someone's being interfered with, a child's being interfered with, you don't narc. If you see a burglary, you don't narc. If you know someone's going to get violent and be harmed, you don't narc. Someone's selling heroin, you don't narc. This is actually, funny enough, probably one of the few entry points into criminal rings, because the criminal rings, the power in criminal rings is kind of based on the politics of criminal rings. Is like how much dirt do you have on each other, how much leverage do you have on someone to prevent them from going to the police. And it starts with a don't narc, because when you don't narc on someone, straight away, immediately, someone's got dirt on you. Something comes on top. That's an English term for something. Police get involved. And police get involved in something, and all of a sudden, I've got dirt on you because you knew it was going to happen, but you didn't narc, and I can prove you knew. Criminals, believe it or not, are a bit more articulate than you think. They might find out you know about something, and very often they actually secretly record you without even knowing you're recording, so they got proof that you knew something. The don't narc thing isn't really a major piece of dirt to trap someone in a criminal ring, because normally most people can get away with saying to themselves, well, yeah, I was scared, that's why I didn't narc, and slap on the wrist or whatever. And then you kind of another kind of thing where you kind of where people get involved in criminal rings. It might be something, I don't know if you've heard that saying, never bear false witness against people. Sometimes people, there might be, say, a narc around, and criminals don't like them because it's bad for business. And you got a person like me, I like to teach children about, it's okay to go to the police and don't be ashamed, don't be afraid, whatever. I teach people that, because there's two main mechanisms that criminals use to stop people from narking: shame and fear, in that order. They'll make you feel ashamed to go to the police, and if shame doesn't work, they use fear. They'll English criminals say, "Oh, there's people like more in the world. Grasses and nonces." Yeah, like nonce is an English nickname for someone that's been convicted for sexual misconduct. Obviously, a narc and a grass is a nonce. English people say this a lot. So what they're doing is they're teaching shame, and they're teaching someone that if you narc, we're going to come get you. We're going to beat the crap out of you. So this is like a type of fear. So when they teach people don't narc, they enforce it with both shame and fear in that order. Or another thing is, like, very often you get prejudice in the world. It could be racist prejudice, or it could be a prejudice of a criminal not liking someone that doesn't have a criminal nature, for example, or it's a good person not liking a bad person. It could be lots of things. It could be someone, maybe someone's girlfriend fancies another man, and they might hate them for that reason. As a general rule, bearing false witness and spreading rumours is also a very kind of low-level tier way of getting people involved in a criminal ring. Like, for example, criminals, they're very clever and articulate, and they want to spread rumours about someone. They'll be very articulate in who they start the rumours with. They'll find someone that, say, for example, you take racism, for example. If someone knows that someone hates black people, one of the things about hatred is that, you've heard that saying, love is blind. Hatred could be blind as well. Of course, going back to beliefs in nature, if you believe it's blind, it will be. So it doesn't have to be blind. But say, for example, if you tell a rumour to a racist person, you say, that black guy over there, he's a rapist. The racist person will believe that person. He will believe the rumour outright, because hatred has that effect where they just believe it. If you go up to a racist person and say that white person is a rapist, let's just treat it as a rumour, Or if you tell someone with a criminal nature that someone is a bad person, the criminal will believe it, because criminals automatically hate people that aren't criminals, so that kind of stuff. And when a person spreads a rumour, sometimes the spread rumour goes in, the person that's wise, they hear a rumour, they might spread the rumour by saying, I heard that this person is so-and-so. That's spreading a rumour. It's a bad thing. But let's say, for example, very often, if you spread a rumour about someone to someone that has hatred towards that person that you're spreading a rumour about, that person won't say, I heard so-and-so is a bad person. They'll say, that person is a bad person. So very often people spread rumours in the way of just spreading rumours. But the thing is, when you spread a rumour that you don't know for a fact is true, and you spread it by saying that person is, rather than I heard, you're actually bearing false witness against someone. As soon as you bear false witness against someone, someone's got some dirt on you, they've got leverage on you to kind of keep you inside a criminal ring. So, for example, they might say something bad about someone, spread a rumour. The rumour about them constitutes, say, a criminal offence. And what happens is, if someone comes on top, or someone might get in trouble with police or get arrested, and they find out that person is innocent, straight away you've committed a very, very serious crime. And on the record, it looks like you've tried to get an innocent person convicted of something they didn't do, or something you knew for a fact that you didn't know it was true. This is a little trick that criminals get up to as well. They're very careful and articulate in who they spread rumours about. So things like don't narc, you get dirt on you because you knew something, and they can prove you knew it before it happened, which is actually illegal. And then bearing false witness again. This is like low-level stuff. Or in things like youth crime, for example, they might kind of get a child to sell dope. And, they might be afraid of their father finding out or their mother finding out. And they use that as leverage, maybe might blackmail them. So I said, I won't tell your dad if you do this for me. This is something else, which is a type of crime, which might be slightly worse. And the way the pyramid of fear builds up, it starts out with something innocent, like bearing false witness against someone, or not going to the police. Or, it could be knowing that, say, a child is involved in some kind of crime or something like that. And these are all criminal offences. They're low-level criminal offences, but this is how people get a start in it. But also, it's also indoctrinating beliefs into people. This mentality, this mindset of you don't narc no matter what. Believe it or not, I know it sounds weird, but, most of the really clued up criminals, when they spread this philosophy of you don't narc no matter what, very often they don't even believe that themselves. Most criminals, if they're in a sticky situation and something's come on top and the police have got involved, push comes to shove, criminals will narc on each other in the police interview. They will do that. And when they spread this philosophy, they don't believe it themselves. They spread it. I have this saying, old wives' tales are spread to protect the interest of old wives. It's a very true philosophy. Criminals spread the philosophy of you don't narc because it protects the interest of criminals. Because if you don't narc, they get away with things. Very often people accuse the police of corruption because things go on and the police don't do anything about it. They don't realise that this isn't always police corruption. The police can't do anything unless someone says something. So if you're this type of person that believes that police is corrupt, and you also believe you never ever narc, you've got to ask yourself, you're the one that's really corrupt, because by not telling the police can't do anything. So it makes the police look corrupt and not corrupt. Obviously, there's corruption in the police. Yeah, I get it, but as a general rule, it's actually not a very good philosophy to live by. As you know, I'm always spreading my philosophy that a person's beliefs in nature goes hand in hand, and the beliefs of the collective generate the type of very reality, the nature of the world we live in. So what I'm asking you to see, imagine a world where everyone believed in the don't narc philosophy. If everyone genuinely believed in the don't narc philosophy, we would live in a world which is dominated by criminals. And that's actually the truth. So always remember that when a person is spreading this don't narc philosophy, I'm not saying go and narc on everything. You know what I mean? Be conservative with narking, but as a general rule, narking is something you should do to, protect children and keep people safe from physical harm and that kind of stuff. Those are the best things to narc over, really. I'm not the type of person that sees someone smoking marijuana in the park and goes to the police. That's a bit redundant, but you get where I'm coming from. But the thing is also, and the way criminals leveraged is very articulate. In the politics of crime, as people get higher and higher up in the criminal ring and higher up on the pyramid of fear, as it were, as the pyramid of criminals have this saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this philosophy is used in lots of different contexts, but in the context of crime, what you know and who you know is really to do with how well connected you are. So, sometimes you might get a policeman that smokes marijuana. Oh, I don't think marijuana is that bad. I think it should be legalized. But even if a policeman does even the most minor thing illegal, that's leverage that can be used to make a policeman even more corrupt, believe it or not. So silly little things like that, they might get police. A criminal might spy on a policeman and get a picture of him having nookie with some other one than his wife, and it could blackmail him. Any dirt which can actually, if it's in a person's nature to give into fear, and they get dirt on them, they'll build up this pyramid of fear. And of course, when you get really, really high up in the levels of criminal nature and very high up in this criminal pyramid, the politics becomes about who's got the most information on other people, and also who's well connected, i.e. not what you know, but who you know. And obviously at the very highest level of the pyramid of fear are those who are literally above the law. And every first world country has a well-known phenomenon, has a teeny tiny small handful of criminals that are literally below the law, like mafia. They can commit any crime they want with guaranteed impunity, and they will never ever spend a time in prison. I've known a few of these people in my life that have been committing crime for literally over 3 decades, never ever been convicted. This is police corruption, unfortunately, but it does happen. If you're mixed up in a criminal ring to this level, unfortunately, you're screwed. Narking's not going to help you. But at the end of this post, I'm going to tell you how you can actually help the people dealing with people that are below the law, because there are actually ways, believe it or not. But that's going to leave that to the end of this kind of post. So this is kind of the basics pyramid of fear. Now, also, I want to talk about other things of criminal nature. I'm going to talk about criminals that are clued up, criminals that aren't so clued up, and fall guys. Most criminals like to, when they before they do crimes, they like to have fall guys. And always also remember, it's very important never to underestimate criminals, what they get up to, and how much control or leverage or what they know or how well connected they are. It's very careful. One of the common techniques that criminals use is getting people to underestimate them. And it's very, very common. It's common in war as well. Getting people to underestimate your enemies. I have this philosophy. What was it again? What was it? Yes. The Imperials always, the desert warriors always cross the desert in single file. That was the philosophy. This philosophy means when you cross a desert in single file, you only see one track. So it hides your numbers. If you've got thousands of warriors, you only see one track. If there's only one warrior, you only see one track. So this is a criminal philosophy. Warriors of the desert always walk in single file. And it's actually a very true saying. And one of the techniques they use to get people to underestimate them, and say like American culture and English culture, very often criminals will use type of language which is associated with ignorance. In the United States, you might get some black dude saying, "Hey y'all, let them please, I am in trouble, they're gonna come down with the police, and I don't want to do." Or in England, they might talk with a strong Cockney accent. "Oh, those kids, I might get them, a bunch of wrongers." I mean, and what they'll do, they'll use language which deliberately makes them sound ignorant and unintelligent and unarticulate. So don't underestimate, this is another common thing to do. If a person uses this kind of common type of language associated with the ignorant, that doesn't mean anything. That they like to do that to get people to underestimate them. There are other techniques as well. But it's good philosophy to remember with criminals is that the warriors of the desert always walk in single file. And another thing with underestimation as well, there's lots of really, really weird things out there that are used. One of the most common things that I've become aware of in the criminal world is subliminal violation. Violating a person's unconscious mind is a lot more common than you think. It's particularly common in prison environments and criminal courts during trials. The people who are most vulnerable to subliminal violation are actually heroin addicts and crack addicts. When a person is on heroin, with the right doses, their mind is as pliable as a 5-year-old child, and they can be forced into a deep trance hypnosis very, very easily. One of the reasons why, like narcotics or heroin is so addictive isn't so much its physical addictive properties, but when people's mind as a standard procedure, people's minds are always eventually violated when they're under the influence of heroin and crack. And one of the most common violations of the mind is subliminal suggestion to make sure they remain addicted. And that's the real addictive nature of heroin, believe it or not. It isn't actually the physical addiction at all. And you can actually get people to do some very, very horrible things on heroin. And one of the reasons why is because it's so easy to violate their mind. And obviously the fear of not having that high and the fear of getting caught, because it's a really long sentence to get caught with heroin. This makes for an extreme fear effect of the pyramid of fear to get them to do certain things. And there's all kinds of bad things. I mean, like you get some prostitutes that support their habit, and they'll get a young child involved in prostitution to keep their pimp happy, and they'll do some extremely immoral things because of the influence of heroin. And this is quite common. In prison environments, there's lots of things like sleep deprivation, or kind of burning things into a person's psyche to condition them to react in certain ways to certain gestural triggers or cues. A lot more common than you think. I know it sounds, what I'm saying is very, sounds tinfoil hat. As a general rule, in the spirit of never underestimating criminals, is that a very good rule of thumb to follow, or a philosophy, is what I always teach, is that any mischief, conceivable or practical, they're guilty of. No matter how far-fetched it is, if it meets two conditions. One, it is possible in the current environment. Two is, can you think of it? Can you conceive it? If you can think of it and it's possible in your environment, I guarantee you 100% they will always do it. 100% they will never be wrong. And it's true not with criminal nature, but it's true with evil in general. All evil people will get up to any mischief which is conceivable or possible. I guarantee you, if you follow that philosophy, you will never, ever be wrong. I promise you that. You will never, ever be wrong. Do not underestimate criminals. They always cross the desert in single file. Do not underestimate them. I can't stress that enough. Also, with criminal rings, a lot of people don't realize this with criminal rings. I have this philosophy: they will come to you. And what I'm saying that when with philosophy is with criminal rings, if a person is not a part of a criminal ring, or they have certain beliefs which they promote, like I do, which are probably not in the interest of criminal rings, they will come to you, and they will challenge your beliefs. They very rarely do it in public. They might do it in a group, for example, or they might give you a false impression that everyone hates you when they actually don't. And there's this kind of nod and wink type of corruption where, you've heard that saying, evil knows evil. There's a lot of truth in that, and also going back to, so I'm going off subject here. I'm going to go back to something I didn't talk about fall guys and idiots and clued up criminals. Basically, clued up criminals will never ever do anything that will put themselves at risk of going to prison. And they'll scare the crap out of you. They'll terrify you as much as they think. But if they've got no dirt on you to prevent you from going to the police, yeah, they won't do anything. They'll leave you alone. The exception is those who are literally above the law. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. But of course, you've got criminals that aren't so clued up. Now, for example, if a person wants to scare the crap out of you and not do something or say it was a grass or whatever, they won't do anything to you yourself, but they'll find an idiot who's not so clued up that wants to prove himself to his mates, and they'll might spread some bad rumours about that person, and they'll get the other person to beat the crap out of you, and they'll go to prison, and the criminal doesn't really care. Or another situation with criminals are clued up, we might get a situation where there's 3 criminals, and 2 of them are clued up, and one of them isn't so clued up, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, nothing more I hate than grasses and nonsense, yeah, or I'll beat the crap out of them," and they're teaching each other not to inform. And the 2 clued up criminals, they'll look at the criminal that isn't clued up. The criminal that isn't that clued up will genuinely believe in the "you don't narc" philosophy, and the 2 clued up criminals will look at each other, will nod and a wink, and they'll say, "Right, if something comes on top, we're going to grass on this guy. We'll run with this guy, commit crimes with this guy. If anything comes on top, he's the fall guy, the person that actually genuinely believes the crap that we're telling him about. You don't narc." The criminals do that quite a lot, actually. This is another thing. So the way criminals will, don't be overconfident with criminals that you're not going to do anything because you've got nothing on me. So you're not going to. They're pretty clever. They can manipulate people into doing things for them. So you have to be very, very careful with that. So if you're a type of person that's trying to avoid getting into a criminal ring, don't kind of be overconfident. "Oh yeah, you're a criminal, you're wrong, and yeah, you can't do anything. You're not going to grass because I go to police, and now you haven't got anything." If you do that in front of their mates, they'll go out of their way to do you. Best way to avoid getting involved in a criminal ring is to be very, very subtle. If someone's doing something where you think they're trying to coerce you or groom you into a criminal ring, just keep it nice and subtle and humble. Say, "Oh, I prefer to stay on the right side of the law. I don't like doing anything illegal." So you just send a subtle little message that it's very risky to try and groom you into getting into crime, especially if you're a child or a teenager. Criminals tend to do that. So you just keep it nice and subtle. "Oh, I'd rather stay on the right side of the law. It's not really my thing." And so you just kind of give a little subtle message that it's very risky to do that. So these are the things that really kind of what to watch out with criminal rings. Now, I mentioned a few people that are quite literally below the law. Now you can have you've got good techniques, good reasonable judge of character, and you can stay away from criminal rings quite easily, And also this speech is to people that, if you're halfway pulled into a criminal ring, you have to sometimes make a decision and decide that, look, if you break away from the criminal ring, then someone is going to you become a threat to the criminal ring when you get out of a criminal ring. I have this not a saying, but I don't know if you've ever heard that song by the Eagles called "The Hotel California." In the Hotel California, there's this lyric in it that says, "You can check out any time you want, but you can never leave." And the reason why I'm saying that is because a criminal ring is like that. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out any time you want, but you can never leave. And what I'm saying is, if you get too deeply involved in a criminal ring, you will be stuck in that criminal ring, because so many people have so much dirt on you that you won't be able to get out without either being killed or looking down the nose at a life sentence. So if you're slightly into a criminal ring and you're a youngster and you're a teenager, whatever trouble you're going to get into for breaking away from that criminal ring, accept the damage, accept the trouble, and let your old man give you a good hiding when you get home for selling drugs for your mate or whatever. Or it could be some really minor crime. You might be 17 years old and you've entertained and gotten involved in some amorous activities with your 50-year-old girlfriend, for example. It could be something like that, and that's leverage as well that people can use on you. The thing is, right? Yeah, you'll get in trouble, but because. All right, yeah, you get in trouble, but the police aren't going to life you off if you've had underage sex and you're a child, practically a child yourself. You're not going to get a major punishment. So anything that you're stuck in where people got leverage on you. Be not just insightful but foresightful. Look into the future. Say, right, if I give in to fear now, this person's got leverage on me for something. What's going to happen in the future? What else is he going to get me to do through this kind of blackmail? And you've got to say to yourself, look at foresight. If I go down this road any further, people are going to get more and more and more dirt on me, and eventually I will be stuck in the Hotel California. So remember that, anyone that's kind of partially inside a criminal ring, leave while you can. It's very, very important. So now I'm going to go into about. I remember I said I was going to talk a little bit about socialism in this post. A lot of people don't, and obviously it does tie into what I'm talking about with criminal nature. Most first world countries, there's a well-known phenomenon that have teeny, minute, tiny group of people who are literally below the law. They are untouchable. And when that happens, you are screwed. You really are screwed. There's nothing you can do. You could be the wisest person in the world that, is insightful, foresightful, and stays on the right side of the law. And if they've chosen to screw you over, there's nothing you can do. When this happens, socialism, believe it or not, a political system is actually the answer. A lot of people, when people identify with an ideology, if that ideology is not liked by the key holders of society, the key holders of society will try to redefine the ideology in a hope to get control back. At the moment, corrupt politicians are trying to redefine what socialism means. And I'm going to tell you what the original definition of socialism is. 4 cornerstones: full proportional representation in government, full proportional representation in the judiciary system, fair trade, free movement of labour. Now, full proportional representation means that people lowest down that aren't even involved in politics, everyday civilians, can actually make moves of no confidence to get anyone out of power at any time if they're too corrupt. Unfortunately, the bad side of socialism or full proportional representation, it takes about 3 times the amount of people to run government and the judiciary system. And you need people that are educated in the certain areas of that judiciary system. So the answer, with corruption, because when someone's below the law, this is high level corruption, and you're screwed. The only way to fight that, believe it or not, is on a political level. People need to support socialism, but the socialism, not the definition that the corrupt people have changed it into, the real definition: full proportional representation, not partial proportional representation. That's completely different. Partial proportional representation is like the House of Lords in England, a group of unelected snobs from rich families that decide what go on. You have to have full proportional representation, because when things like this happen, you need the people at the lowest level to vote for no confidence. If some high court judge is corrupt, some barristers corrupt, some high-ranking policemen is corrupt, you need full proportional representation to get those people out of power as soon as possible. Otherwise, below-the-law criminals will run riot in your country, and they will never stop. And this is why I was talking about why I wanted to mention socialism at the end of this post, because socialism, true socialism, is, as far as the true meaning is concerned, that's the only way to stop below-the-law criminals. There is no other way. So anyway, I'm going to close on that now. I hope you guys have really kind of taken in what I was saying here, because this post, really, believe it or not, is mostly it's mostly targeted towards children, because I've noticed there's a big trend of child drug mules going around now, and it's getting really, really out of hand. And there's too many people not going to the police. And I also want to close in saying that when a lot of people see this post and they'll see me as a very, very bad person, because criminals brainwash people into believing that the narc is the bad guy and the criminal is the good guy. And I'm trying to ask you, see common sense here. Understand the difference between right and wrong. The criminal is the bad person. The informer, or the grass, or the narc as you call them, they're actually the good guy. They're trying to give you the impression that we are the bad guys. We're not the bad guys. The police aren't the bad guys. The police aren't corrupt. The police can't do anything because we don't narc. And remember my philosophy. A person's beliefs and a person's nature go hand in hand. But most importantly, the beliefs, nature, and will of the collective generate the very reality in which we live. Only correct beliefs can set us free. Imagine a world where we all believe that you don't narc no matter what. criminals will dominate our society if we believe that philosophy. Remember that. Remember it well. I'm going to close now. Thank you very much for listening to my post, and God bless.